let's get down to the real business of taking care of the people.
We can't have a testimony without a test. And we are being tested whether we have courage enough, conviction enough, people power enough to stand up and do what is right for ourselves and generations yet unborn. Come on. You can't just talk the talk, baby. It's time to walk the walk. We're going to take a page out of Janet Jackson's book, What Have You Done For Me Lately? I'm talking to the Democrats.
Hello, Nick Brana. How are you, darling?
Hello, Senator Nina Turner. This is such a pleasure.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the Nina Turner Show on the Real News Network. Thank you so much for joining me. And so you were part of the team, the national team in 2016 to help Senator Bernie Sanders become president of the United States. Share with our viewers a little bit of some of the things that you did on the campaign trail.
Yes, I was the National Political Outreach Coordinator, so I was the deputy to our political director.
Yeah.
And in that capacity, I worked with the superdelegates. I saw
Oh no,
closely.
I gotta stop you right there.
Yeah.
You probably had one of the hardest jobs. I remember us talking on the phone about these superdelegates. What was that like?
That's right. I had the job of, I went to join Bernie, to join this radical campaign, and then I felt like I ended up with the one job that was stuck in reaching out to the establishment.
Right.
And I had the job of going out, trying to talk to Democratic Party officials, who were in bed for Hillary from before even Bernie announced,
Yeah. It wouldn't matter who was running, they were in support.
Exactly.
Can we just say support? They supported her.
They had decided, yeah.
Right,
They had decided.
okay.
400 of them had decided, before that.
Before anybody got in the race. So we saw Senator Bernie Sanders change the dynamics of the race, not just for Democrats, but I would say America, running one of the most popular, strong, determined insurgency campaigns in modern history. And you were a part of that along with millions of other people. So we want to fast forward 2016. He doesn't win the primary. He's not the nominee. You and other people like you catch on to this energy that he started, because he always said that this is not about me, this is about us, that we need a revolution. That's what he asked for, right? He said we need a revolution.
Yeah.
So you decide to team up with some other folks and create Draft Bernie for a People's Party. Now, what's all that about?
So, my experience working with the superdelegates, I feel gave me a preview of what was coming when Bernie was going to set off, when he set off in November after Trump won to reform the Democratic Party. I said, the party is way too entrenched, to change. And some people had this impression that corporate money was kind of something that you could surgically remove from the party, as if it's a tumor in an otherwise healthy body. But that my work on the campaign and my work with the Democratic Party before then taught me that really it's not. It's corporate money flows through the party's veins, and it's embedded in the party's DNA. And I thought there's no way
What about our
to
progressive
separate
platform,
that.
Nick? I mean, what about, right, the Democrats passed the most progressive platform ever, or again, at least in modern history. What about all of that? Why do you need a separate party? Is there anything that the Democrats can do to please you? And the people who follow, who want a third party in a two-party system?
There wouldn't be. Millions of people have now seen our interviews. We have thousands of volunteers across the country. There wouldn't be that level of excitement if people did not feel like the Democratic Party wasn't reforming, if they didn't feel like really we need a new option.
Aren't you all just starting stuff? Aren't you just messing around with the two-party system?
Well,
aren't you all just Bernie-crats who are whining and complaining and can't get over 2016? What do you say to people who say that?
What I say is that Bernie is the party now. Bernie is the Democratic Party. During the campaign, he essentially created a party. He built the following, he built the coalition, he built the donor base, the fundraising base. He popularized the message, a progressive message that we all stood for. And so that is the party, really.
But I think the senator would disagree with you, wouldn't he?
Really?
He wouldn't say that he is the party.
I would say that he has the party behind him. The party is behind him and what he stands for and what we all stand for. It's not behind, the problem is the institution. So the people are with him, both inside the party, the Democratic base, and outside the party, independents who adore him. He has an 80 to 87% favorability with Democrats, 57 to 70% with independents. But he's working inside an institution that is set up that prevents him from really expressing that. And so that's why he has the ability, uniquely, having effectively built a party before, to take that following, follow in the footsteps of Lincoln in terms of overthrowing the pro-slavery Whig Party and found a new party that really is genuinely progressive.
But Nick, some people would ask the question of Draft Bernie, if Senator Bernie Sanders could not even get himself elected, how is it that you think that he or other progressives could lead this movement out and away from the two major party system, but particularly Democrats, if he couldn't even win the primary within the Democratic Party?
Right. Well, that's because he was working within that party framework. And I do believe that he would have won. At being there on the campaign, I saw for every story that came out about how the DNC was stacking the process, and you're very well aware of this. There were a dozen more that never came out, whether it was just dragging their feet bureaucratically. So that's what, he's working within an institution that is incapable, really, of supporting what it is that we stand for. But he has the power to found it, to take that following, and to form a new one. Just like the founders of the Republican Party did back when they replaced.
That was so long ago.
It was so long ago, but the reasons that it happened, all of the conditions that it happened, exist today.
Well, let's talk about the conditions.
Yeah.
What were they?
So the conditions back there were, in 1852, the Whig Party approved a pro-slavery platform. And as a result, but the base of the party was abolitionist. They wanted to get rid of slavery. And so what happened is that their voters didn't show up. And the election was a disaster for the Whig Party. And now what happened after that is that those abolitionists, those early abolitionist pioneers, came together, and instead of, trying to change the Whig Party, they formed their own party. They knew they had the base, the majority of the country with them, the majority especially of the North, and the majority of their party base. And so they formed that new party. Today, the issues that divide people, things like, they're in the 60%, 70%, 80%, even 90% of public favorability. Those progressive issues that Bernie stands for, was single payer, free public college. You get up into the 90s when you talk about things like getting money out of politics.
Paid medical leave, family leave.
Exactly.
Right, when you start to talk about that and separate that from the progressive label, most Americans agree. Women making dollar for dollar as a man, most Americans, no matter how they swing politically, they definitely agree with that.
Not even just Democrats.
No, not just Democrats.
And so back then, the issue of slavery was actually very contentious. In the country, there was more, there was much more sharp divide over that in the country than there is today. Today, there's near unanimity, like you're saying, about these issues. It's just we're locked out. We don't have a means to power as progressives. The Democratic Party has proved that it's not a means to power. So we can demonstrate a lot. We can meet. But until we have an actual path to institutionalize our power as progressives and start winning office, then we're never going to be able to implement what it is that the majority stand for.
Is this critique, though, only of the Democratic Party? I mean, what about Republicans? Do they just get a free ride? I mean, why is the focus, Nick?
Right.
Some people would question, why is the focus simply on the Democratic Party when the Democratic Party has tried so hard to be the party of the people? Again, passing the most progressive platform ever. Why isn't that good enough?
Yeah. So what I would say is that the Democratic Party is really the one, Trump is a symptom. Trump is a symptom of the fact that we don't have a populist working class party in the United States, a genuine progressive populist party. There were polls that showed that Bernie would have creamed Trump. Other things that polls have shown is that people still view Trump as the anti-establishment populist today, and so that really shows running neoliberalism, running as an establishment party against populism, even if it's on the right wing, because people are so desperate to get away from the system, they'll go to the right. The only thing that trumps right-wing populism is left-wing populism. And if we're not going to get it in the Democratic Party, and we're not, then we need to take matters into our own hands, and we need to start our own party. And Bernie's perfect to do that.
Is there, if Senator Sanders does not, for whatever reason, I know you guys have been working hard, you're all over the place, and I certainly understand, and I know the viewers will understand why it is draft Bernie Sanders for a People's Party, even though you and I have had several conversations about the understanding that this is certainly bigger than Senator Sanders. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Senator Sanders refuses to stop trying to save the Democratic Party as it exists, then what?
Well, that won't change anything fundamental about where we are as a country, I feel. It won't change the feeling of the hundreds of thousands of supporters that we have that the Democratic Party is not the vehicle of the political revolution. And so there will still be a need to create that party and to come together, you know, as progressives, as a progressive majority in this country to create that party. Because just hoping that the same formula of competing inside the Democratic Party, which a Democratic Party that isn't changing and that no one, including Bernie, cannot unite people under, that formula doesn't work. We're replaying in so many ways what we did in 2016. The Democratic Party's not embracing progressivism. The messaging is entirely against Trump. And Americans are responding in the same way that they did in 2016. Back then they responded by not turning out to vote for the Democratic Party. Now they're responding by actually leaving the Democratic Party. They're responding by going independent.
And so the number of independent or people who identify as independents, that is the largest voting bloc in this country?
Oh, by far.
By far?
By far.
Okay.
Yeah, the number of independents is about 42%.
42%.
And Gallup predicts that it'll be 50%
by 2020.
By
yes,
2020.
I saw that stat. So what would be your message if I were Senator Bernie Sanders, hair and all, and that if I were Senator Sanders, though, seriously, and you were sitting across from Senator Sanders right now, what 3 things would you say to me to try to convince me that we need a People's Party?
The first is, I would say, Senator, you have done your best to save this party. Really, you have worked harder than anybody could expect to. I mean, you're still campaigning effectively out there. And despite everything that you're doing, despite everything that Trump is doing, in fact, that should be bringing people into the Democratic Party as an opposition to Trump because he's so unpopular, the party affiliation is still declining. Now, what that tells us is that the American people are really leading us as a progressive movement. They are leading us into an independent alternative. And I think that as progressives, it's our role to follow them. That's the first thing I would tell Bernie. The second thing that I would tell him is, Bernie, during the campaign, you started with nothing. You had nothing. Hillary Clinton had the media, she had the money, she had the name recognition, she had the party on her side. All of those traditional political variables which are supposed to determine, you know, and constrain what happens, all Bernie had was his revolutionary progressive message and his integrity. And with those 2 things, he started a political revolution in 1 year. We have 3 years now, and we're not starting from square one.
Right.
We're starting with an infrastructure for the campaign, for a new party actually having been built by Bernie.
And the third thing you would say to him?
And the third thing I would say is that the senator has a chance now to lead. You know, the senator's 75 years old. He won't always be around to lead the revolution, but he has a chance now to leave us with a vehicle that can always lead the revolution in the way that he has. And that's something that really is, he has a unique ability to do it. I think that we could achieve it because people are continuing to leave, people are continuing to join independents. It could be done without Bernie, but if Bernie does it, we could have a new progressive party built around the issues that the majority believe in and espousing the view that the majority of Americans want a major new party. We could have that in 1 year, and that's truly remarkable. And that's something that Bernie could give us.
Well, that is quite a prediction, Nick, that Senator Sanders' presence and his essence could do that. And you're right, he ran such a strong insurgency campaign against the machine. Nobody thought he had a snowball's chance in 2 hells. And he definitely proved them wrong by the people power that we see right here today. The reason why the People Summit exists, the reason why it was born, is because of that energy and the synergy of Senator Bernie Sanders. And there's so many activists out there just like you and all across this country who are asking people to do a new thing. Well, Nick, thank you so much for interviewing with me today. And again, you are watching the Nina Turner Show on the Real News Network.